It is time for our favorite roundtable. So some introductions really quickly. Rafael Yaniz, a Miami-based attorney and political analyst. Melba Pearson, back with us, a former prosecutor, then ACLU, now director of prosecution projects at FIU's Gordon Institute. Tom Hudson is back in South Florida at WLRN from DC as senior economics editor and special correspondent. And back with us, veteran roundtable and veteran South Florida journalist Marc Caputo, national political reporter at The Messenger. And we have a lot of fancy camera work going on. Did you see?
Yes.
So great to have you all.
A
couple of attorneys at the table. So I'm going to start with Rafael. You listened to this segment. Did you know about this move to consider consolidating the judiciary?
Yes, it's been a topic within legal circles.
You know things.
Thank you. I'm going to take that, put it on the resume. Thank you. I'm done. I'm
That's
done
your
for
headline.
today.
I know stuff.
I know stuff.
What do you are a Republican.
I'm a registered Republican. I'm a moderate. I know you're going to get a lot of hate mail saying I'm a rhino.
I don't get hate mail. We just do the love here.
Let's bring in the love then. I wish we were spending the time, instead of talking about reducing the judicial districts, into talking about how under-resourced the existing districts are, specifically in cost of living.
I think we talked about that a little bit.
You spoke about it a little bit, but the public defender and the state attorney in Miami-Dade County, Kathy Fernandez-Rondon and Carlos Martinez, are very vocal, and they lobbied the legislature. There was a minor increase in the grand scheme of things. When you look at the cost of living, the best attorneys that are coming into South Florida, on either side, they cannot afford to live in South Florida unless if they have independent sources of wealth or are willing to be starving artists pursuing justice.
Tom, that's going to be your wheelhouse a little bit.
Listen, every industry is trying to handle this affordability crisis. And it's not only isolated to Miami-Dade County, it's in Monroe County, it's Broward County, Orange County, Tampa Bay area is affecting this as well. I think the question that, frankly, the public needs to be asking regarding the consolidation push is, how does this affect the delivery of justice? How does it affect the efficient and fair delivery of justice in the state of Florida?
Right, and that was actually a benchmark question that they have to answer. You were in that system, Melba.
Yes, and I resembled the starving artist comment, because when I first started at the office many moons ago, I was starting at $38,000 a year.
I'm not going to ask you what year that was, but that would have been context. I mean, the year and the salary. So this was, my first job was $11,000 a year. Talk about starving artists.
So yeah, this was around 2002.
Yeah.
Right, and so now starting salaries are around 60, 65. But if rents are $3,000-$4,000 a month, it's not doable.
And that's an industry-wide, middle-income, industry-wide South Florida issue. Let's bring politics into the fray.
Well, in the game of politics, you're now making the point of the Republicans who are pushing this. You see, everything's so expensive, we're going to save money, and we're going to collapse all the districts.
Are they really going to save money?
They're not going to save money.
I'm just saying what the argument is. It's not true. They're doing this so that they can increase their political power and dilute those few Democratic areas. As Dennis Ward had pointed out, you had 2 Democratic prosecutors who've been suspended, one in Tampa and one in Orlando. If you broaden out the voter pools, you by nature make those kind of more conservative. You're going to start bringing in more exurban and rural areas, and thereby they won't get elected.
It's literally gerrymandering.
Yes. Gerrymandering by another name. Absolutely.
And for another reason.
Absolutely. Because if you think about the case of what happened with State's Attorney Monique Worrell, right? She won her district, which is Orange County, Osceola, 66% of the vote, right? So let's say she's already been removed. I have my very strong opinions that have been very vocal on that is
shocking.
Wrong.
That is so shocking.
Very shocking, very shocking. But again, it's an attack on democracy and the voters, because the voters put her there. The voters should be the one to remove her if they think she's not doing a good job. But she is going to be running again come 2024. Suppose, just walk with me on this one, suppose they decide to fold Orange Osceola into Marion County, a more conservative county that's one county to the north. What does that do to the voters of Orange and Osceola? And now also think about the travel time. Just the practical perspective. If you live in Orange County and now have to drive all the way to the main courthouse in Marion County as a victim of crime, as a survivor of crime, as a next of kin, as a defendant, as a witness, you're not getting easy access to justice.
And that's the argument, same in here in Florida. If you're in Isla Mirada, if you're in the Lower Keys, you're going to have to drive up the overseas highway 4 or 5 hours. Maybe you hit the drawbridge, maybe you don't, in order to get that court time at 8 o'clock in the morning.
There would be 6 drawbridges on that trip, but that's another story. But that's really part of the opposition total across the board opposition.
Yes,
In
bipartisan
letters,
opposition.
yeah, and if when we give you the place to go, if you haven't found out yet, you'll see all of these letters. You'll see all
Right.
of. So, what will happen now when the people say no, and the legislature gets it?
Well, the question is whether the Florida State Senate decides to resist this. Behind this is the Florida House Speaker, Paul Renner. He and DeSantis are simpatico. I mean, they operate in tandem. And the Florida Senate is much less independent than it used to be and much less moderate than it used to be. But they have shown more signs of resisting DeSantis. They didn't like taking, for instance, the 6-week abortion vote, 6-week ban on abortion. And there's a few other things. So if this is going to die and it winds up in the legislature, it's going to die in the Florida Senate.
And so, what then? We have right now a presidential election. Oh,
Right.
really? In the thick of it, which a lot of people thought the legislature's session that just happened really was affected by a governor
Presidential politics.
running for president.
Yes, and
What do you think comes
primary
next?
politics. Well, the
Yeah.
reality is Governor DeSantis is fighting for the same primary voters that are already loyal to Donald Trump. And so that colors every decision because he's trying to siphon away those voters.
Well, what about, okay, and we will, next, when is the next session? In January?
It's in
January.
January, right in the middle of the caucuses.
election.
Right in
Iowa
the middle of the
caucuses.
caucuses.
Right.
So that, we're not out of those woods yet.
No, and we won't be for a while. So the issue, since you open up the door to the presidential debate, I have to say, as a millennial, Vivek Ramaswamy was horrific on the GOP debate stage. He is dangerous. His comments about Nikki Haley was the only sober person on that stage, and I'm not on her team. I'm not on anyone's team, but she was the one that called him out because what he was promoting was so dangerous. And I wanted to say this to the viewers: if you're a Republican and you are flirting with Vivek Ramaswamy, you are flirting with danger. You are putting America in danger. His policies against Israel, against our allies, are dangerous and will come back to haunt us in the United States.
Well, you
So-
probably have no reason to worry. It looks like Donald Trump's going to win the primary.
Right.
Anyway.
Well,
we'll see. We'll see.
With all of his indictments.
Or you get DeSantis.
All of them.
Yeah.
All of them.
Likely.
We'll see.
Did anybody buy a mug with a mug?
Mug on a mug?
On that note, we have totally derailed the roundtable, which is one of the reasons I love it so much. But we want to take a quick break. We have news we really need to address this morning in Jacksonville, so we will with the roundtable when we come right back. In Jacksonville right now, a national focus now on what is clearly an intended racist masked murder. A young man in tactical gear with an AR-15 in a store targeting black people, according to his own manifesto.
Portions of these manifestos detail the shooter's disgusting ideology of hate. Plainly put, this shooting was racially motivated and he hated black people.
To the roundtable now. Melba, this is happening now. It is a news item now. It is an instance now, but boy, are there issues here.
So many issues. So first off, need to center the family and the community that is suffering right now. My heart and my prayers and my actions go to the people of Jacksonville, because too many times we hear our politicians say, oh, thoughts and prayers, and leave it at that. We need action. And the reality is, this was a racially motivated crime. There was a manifesto. There's no question about that at this juncture. And the flip side is, where's the governor? Yes, he released a statement, but there's a community in pain. And he is too busy campaigning for president than to come down and speak with the people that are suffering. We have 89 active hate groups in the state of Florida. 89, as per the SPLC. And what is being done to address this culture of hate that's being allowed to flourish in Florida? We see in Orlando anti-Semitic signs popping up all over the place, Nazis rallying in Orlando. Where is the governor on this?
So you cover the governor a lot, Marc. I just want to bring it into like this moment. This man had the means and he had the motive. How do you legislate? What could the governor do about that?
Well, I don't want to be so presumptuous as to pretend I have solutions to the fact that
We're just talking here.
the country has too many guns and too many crazy people, and it's too easy for the latter to get a hold of the former. And this is what we get. Statistically, now this is according to Everytown, the gun control group, states with more gun control have fewer gun crimes. which seems to make sense. So there is some truth that lies in the idea that there needs to be some more regulation. But I must admit, I don't know what it is. To Melba's point, after the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting that happened tragically on a Valentine's Day, within 2 or 3 weeks, the Republican Florida legislature, for the first time in my life in the 20 years I've covered the state, met in session and actually passed a gun control law. They passed a red flag law that should have kept this gun out of this guy's hands. So we need to find out what happened there. And also they limited the purchase of firearms, or better said, long guns, semi-automatic rifles, to people who are 18, they had to be 21. What's left? We're going to see. I don't think anything's really going to happen.
So just this week, a bill was filed by a state rep who actually was with us, I believe, last week, undoing one of the components of that Marjorie Stoneman Douglas law. Representative Paul Rudman floated a bill that would take away mandatory waiting periods. This, especially to Republicans who were crafting these laws, mental health was really a focus and is still. And this man in Jacksonville has a mental health past. To your point, red flag laws haven't worked. But taking that into account, gun control is not going to fly in Florida. This is not a gun control state.
Far from it, right? What Marc mentions in terms of the legislative action after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas was historic by any measurement, and it happened after that tragedy, right as a legislature was meeting and really driven by the local legislators who brought in their fellow legislators from outside the South Florida area to come see the aftermath of gun violence. And in fact, Representative Moskowitz, now Congressman Moskowitz, has done the same with congressional leaders as well. And I think the further away we get from that kind of tragedy, this tragedy in Jacksonville happening on the 5th anniversary of a previous mass shooting that happened in public, happening on the anniversary of the March on Washington from 1963, it will continue to be a rallying point for both political sides.
And also, too, it is the 60th anniversary of Axe Handle Sunday, which was an attack in Jacksonville, which was an attack on a group of African-American people by Ku Klux Klan members. And the police only intervened when another group of black people jumped in to support the people that were being harmed, and then, of course, only arrested the black people. So
I want
keeping that in context too.
Yeah, no, that is context, and I want to sort of merge these two, and I throw out a question to you all here: is racism a mental health issue?
That's a deep question.
That's why we're here.
I'm not going to pretend to be an unlicensed, mental health professional. I will say that racism can be taught, and racism and anti-racism can be taught. Growing up in a Cuban American household, my father told me that he was shocked when he came at 15 years old in the early 60s from Cuba and would see 2 water fountains. My father told me that as a young kid, that it made no sense to him, because that's not the reality he grew up with in Cuba, in an integrated neighborhood.
So when I ask that question, it goes directly toward this man in Jacksonville has a mental health past, should never have had a gun. Has nothing to do with gun control, it has to do with people with mental health issues. But is racism and hate a form of mental deficiency?
No, because I think, first of all, when I think of mental health, I think of, bipolar, I think of schizophrenia, I think of actual diseases that you need to take medication, you need therapy, you need, active participation by a medical team in order to, manage and live with this, right? Racism, much to my friend Rafa's point here, it's just like, that is something that is taught, and you can learn and you can unlearn it, and it's a conscious choice, right? Like, you can choose to associate with people that are not the same as you. You can choose to have an open mind about others and other cultures, or you can stay in your own circle and keep perpetuating racist narratives. That is a choice.
I saw some reports today raising the fact that as of July 1st, Florida is now a permitless carry state.
Right.
Does this have anything to do with that?
I think it'll be part of that continuing debate. There's no doubt about that the proliferation of firearms in the state of Florida and the violence that we've experienced in this community and across Florida, and the community in Jacksonville is suffering now, just the latest. Permitless carry is going to be yet another piece of ammunition that both sides will lever against each other, looking for some kind of legislative regulatory response.
Just real quick, and Rafael reminded me of how old I am and how young he is, and also reminded me that
We are all ageless here. Just going to put that out on the table.
my
but
oldest
go ahead.
daughter is 20 and my youngest daughter is 13. They have grown up with school shootings, mass school shootings, and duck and cover drills, or the equivalent thereof. At a certain point, for the Republican Party, if we're going to talk about politics here, their lack of relative solutions to young people is going to become untenable and likely provoke or promote or lead to quite a change at the ballot box. I don't know when that will be. I don't know how that'll look, but right now it's hard to see how this can continue to happen without any real solutions. And yes, I understand there's a Second Amendment. Yes, I understand the complications. But at a certain point, when there are tragedies on tragedies, people want solutions. They don't want just thoughts and prayers.
In politics, yeah. We covered a scare at an elementary school, actually a K-8, just this past week. And these little girls were calmly telling us about, they knew full well what to do to follow the code red.
Yeah, we get emails as parents saying tomorrow's going to be a code red training day, for instance. I'm sure you've received those as a parent. I've received those as a parent. But I think to Marc's point, gun control or gun safety is so low on the list of voter interest, and what is motivating any voter, not only in Florida but in the United States, to go to make a choice. Crime is a motivating factor, but gun violence is not.
That's interesting. Sit tight, because we're going to come right back. Senator Rick Scott has another opponent, and we sat down with Debbie Mucarsel-Powell. That's next, and we're back with the Roundtable. Just a few days since former Miami-Dade Congresswoman Debbie Mucarsel-Powell announced she is running to take out Florida Senator Rick Scott, she's become the Democrats' unofficial best chance so far. DMP announced via video on social media, and right after, we met up with her in the South Dade district she repped in her one term in Congress.
He cuts taxes for himself.
The opening salvo
He's gotten tens of millions of dollars richer.
makes Debbie Mucarsel-Powell's target and campaign for U.S. Senate clear day one.
I can sense that this state is ready. It's ready for new leadership. It's ready for someone that's really going to put them first in Washington.
Mucarsel-Powell spoke with us in the South Dade swing district. She served in Congress for a term, courted by national Democrats for her grasp on health care, gun policy, and her life story.
I'm an immigrant, a Latina, a mother.
Internal polling suggests that story appeals to voters enough for a statistical tie with Republican Senator Rick Scott, unlike other Democrats who have filed. The first-term senator and two-term governor has never lost a statewide election, but won them all by the thinnest of margins and millions of his own money. Senator Scott now a constant critic of the Democrats' administration.
Run up more debt and raise taxes.
The Biden administration has made the decision to keep our borders open.
And also Mucarsel-Powell today.
I see them as an attack on someone that wants to actually reduce the cost of health care, make sure that we pass gun safety reforms.
No doubt this race will go negative, and it's still open.
The great Dwayne Wade.
Hall of Famer Dwayne Wade told the New York Times he's been approached to run.
I'm all in for Dwayne Wade supporting this race and making sure that we beat Rick Scott.
Dwayne Wade has not called me back. I've been trying to figure out if he's running, not running.
Heartbroken.
Heartbroken.
He's not running.
So Debbie Mucarsel-Powell, clearly the odds-on favorite, not officially endorsed by the Florida Democratic Party, which cannot. Upside, downside?
The problem is the Florida Democratic Party has been unable to take advantage of some potential demographic benefits in the state by registering more voters, and Republicans have. And so now I think it's 500,000 registered voter edge that Republicans have over Democrats.
Yes.
It's just a very difficult field to play on.
Do you think, I'm asking you, I hear the answer coming, but you get that next.
Okay.
Is Senator Rick Scott vulnerable, do you think?
Absolutely he is. He has his 15-point plan.
I thought you were going to shock me and tell me something else.
I know, right? No, but his 15-point plan, which was basically attacking Medicare, which is popular, all sorts of social security net programs, which are popular, that did not go well with his party. They didn't want him to even release it, and he went ahead and did it anyway.
Which he walked back.
And
Eventually.
he also wanted to raise taxes, which again is not popular with Democrats or Republicans. So again, if Debbie Mucarsel-Powell is able to connect all of these concepts to the base and get them excited and get them turn out, because again, yes, there is a half a million voter advantage, but we also had a turnout problem. If we turn people out, we being the Democrat Party as a general premise, which I am not a representative of, but if they're able to turn people out, there's a win right there in the
Melba, Democrats have an organization problem in the state. Republicans are
Nikki Fried is working on it.
Well, time will tell. Her report card will come in November 2024. But in the meantime, Republicans are extremely well organized. Republicans have been putting in the work, as Marc was saying, and doing that voter registration push across all demographics. And that is why Republicans are able to turn out voters like clockwork for every single election, small or large. And next year, let's be honest, Debbie Mucarsel-Powell has a great personality when you engage with her. She did serve in Congress, retail politics at its peak.
And she's a moderate.
And she's a moderate Democrat.
Even though she's tainted otherwise.
She will be labeled by the Republican Party, and she already has been in the past. That's why she did not win re-election, amongst other reasons. But the Democrats' organizational challenges are going to be felt and seen very hard at the presidential ballot, because there is the primary. She needs to clear a primary. Rick Scott's the presumed Republican nominee on his primary. Getting to November 2024, the top of the ballot is going to have a great impact on whether she can actually move the needle or not.
Rick Scott has been a 1% winner in Florida, right? His widest margin of victory was 1.2% against his opponent. So he is vulnerable on paper. He is not vulnerable when it comes to organization, when it comes to funding. And that's where, particularly that latter point, is where the Democrats and former Congresswoman Mucarsel-Powell really have a significant struggle ahead of them.
You know, that's interesting math, because the winning in the margins, the math on Florida voter registration was much different.
Much different. And Rick Scott has never been on a ballot in Florida during a presidential election cycle.
Correct.
And so that also will argue to the turnout piece for both sides of it, to the differential that the Republicans now enjoy in terms of registration, and they'd appeal to the NPAs. That's traditionally where that 1% had come from. But now, additionally, Debbie Mucarsel-Powell is going to have to pull.
Governor. The NPAs broke for Governor DeSantis on his re-election. NPAs broke, for Donald Trump. So we need to be.
They broke for Scott.
They broke for Scott as well. So we have to be honest that former Governor Scott, current junior senator of Florida, Rick Scott, he right now would go into re-election precisely on the back, especially if Donald Trump is on the ballot. He will be re-elected.
I don't know about that, because again, this is a presidential election. This is going to possibly be a rematch between the former president and our current president, President Biden. So that alone is going to energize people to turn out, especially if they are anti the former president.
But to Rafael's point, is Donald Trump mopped the floor with Biden in Florida in 2020.
He increased his margin of victory.
Correct.
And I've seen nothing, relatively speaking, right? And I've seen nothing significant from the Biden operation in Florida, and they have told me repeatedly in the past they see more opportunity in Texas than Florida.
Yes.
That's not a recipe for investment.
Democrats have ridden off Florida.
No.
National Democrats have ridden off Florida.
A lot of them have. Not all.
Not all, but the powers that be, the investment's not in Florida. Nikki Fried's task is to increase those investments.
She's reinvesting as well. She's reinvesting, my understanding, $1 million into voter registration efforts and collaborating with different clubs and caucuses on the ground in those communities to make sure the money is properly spent to turn out the pockets that are most needed. So
30 seconds left. Take us out with how important is Rick Scott's bottomless money?
Oh, very important. I mean, he wins ugly, but he wins. And it's fueled by tons and tons of cash.
That's a good football winning ugly.
Marc Caputo, Rafael Yaniz, Melba Pearson, Tom Hudson, you are all amazing, and I value your time and your personality and your sense of humor, and you are the total package. Great to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.